Have you ever had someone try to take what's yours, only to discover they picked the wrong person to mess with? That's exactly what happened when a certain HOA Karen decided my quiet little cabin was hers to control. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just some random cabin owner. I was the county's land commissioner, and that meant she was playing a very dangerous game. I had built that cabin years ago. To me, it wasn't just wood, nails, and a roof. It was peace. It was my escape from the noise of the city. I worked hard, and on weekends I would drive up, chop wood, make coffee, and watch the sun come up over pines. It was my sanctuary. But apparently, to Karen, the president of the local HOA, it was just another property she thought she could control. It all started with a letter. At first, I thought it was some kind of junk mail, but when I opened it, I realized this wasn't spam. It was an official-looking document from the HOA. It said my cabin was non-compliant with neighborhood standards. Non-compliant? I laughed. My cabin wasn't even in their neighborhood. It was on county land, far outside their HOA boundaries. But Karen didn't see it that way. She wrote that the Homeowners Association had the authority to manage all properties within the valley. Which valley? She didn't say. But she had a way of writing, as if her HOA ruled the entire world. At first, I ignored it. After all, I knew the law better than anyone in that county. But ignoring Karen is like throwing gasoline on a fire. She doesn't go away. She gets louder. A week later, I showed up at my cabin, and there she was, standing right in my driveway, arms crossed, sunglasses on, holding a clipboard like she was the sheriff of the Wild West. "You can't park here," she said. I laughed out loud. "Excuse me? This is my cabin. My land. I'll park wherever I want." She smirked. "Actually, it's under HOA jurisdiction, and your cabin doesn't meet our design standards. The siding is the wrong color. Your chimney is out of code, and the gravel driveway is not allowed. We're going to have to fine you until you comply." That's when I realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a battle. Now, most people would have shouted at her, argued, maybe even threatened to call the police. But I had something better. Knowledge. You see, as a county land commissioner, I was the one who approved land boundaries, zoning laws, property maps. If anyone knew exactly where HOA authority stopped, it was me. So I let her talk. I let her think she had power. And then, calmly, I said, "Karen, do you know who I am?" She rolled her eyes. "Doesn't matter who you are. Rules are rules." That's when I smiled. "I'm the person who decides the rules, and you just step way out of bounds." Her face dropped for a moment, but she quickly tried to recover. "We'll see about that," she said, storming off to her SUV. Now, here's where it got interesting. Instead of backing off, Karen doubled down. Over the next week, she sent more letters, bigger fines, threats of legal action. She even had the nerve to tell me that if I didn't pay $2,500 in compliance fees, she would start foreclosure proceedings on my cabin. Can you imagine the arrogance? Trying to foreclose on the county land commissioner's property? That's when I knew I had to teach her a lesson she would never forget. First, I went to the county records office. I pulled every single boundary map, HOA charter, and zoning file connected to her neighborhood. And guess what? The HOA's jurisdiction ended a full 2 miles away from my cabin. 2 miles. She had absolutely zero authority. But I didn't stop there. I started digging deeper. I found out that Karen's HOA had been overstepping its power for years, fining people for things that weren't even in their bylaws, harassing homeowners who didn't bow to her control. She had built her little empire on fear and intimidation. So I decided to turn the tables. At the next county meeting, I presented the evidence. I laid out the maps, the laws, the limits of HOA authority. And then, in front of a packed room, I told the story of how this HOA president tried to seize property that didn't belong to them. You should have seen Karen's face when I announced it publicly. She turned red as a fire truck. The room was silent for a moment, and then applause. People had been waiting for someone to call her out. And now, not only was she exposed, but the county board officially declared her HOA had no jurisdiction beyond their set boundaries. That meant every fine, every threat, Every letter she had sent to me or anyone else outside her area was illegal harassment. And the best part? I wasn't just defending myself. I was protecting every single person she had bullied. But Karen wasn't finished yet. Oh no. She decided if she couldn't win legally, she would try socially. She started spreading rumors about me, saying I was corrupt, saying I was abusing my position. She even claimed my cabin was built illegally and should be torn down. The difference? Now, everyone knew her game. And instead of believing her, they laughed at her. But here's the truth. The fight wasn't over. She had underestimated me once, and now she was desperate. And desperate people can be dangerous. CTA, if you've ever dealt with a power-hungry HOA, you already know how far they'll go. But trust me, what Karen tried next will leave you speechless. Stick around to the next part, because that's where the real battle begins, and it's a showdown you don't want to miss. You'd think after being humiliated in front of the county, Karen would finally back off, right? Most people would take the loss, go home, and lick their wounds. But not Karen. She wasn't the type to admit defeat. If anything, my public smackdown only made her more determined to take me down. And trust me, what she did next made this battle turn into a full-blown war. The morning after that county meeting, I woke up to the sound of hammering outside my cabin. At first, I thought maybe a neighbor was fixing their roof. But when I looked out the window, my jaw dropped. Karen had actually hired workers. Yes, workers, to start putting up a giant wooden fence around my cabin. Imagine that. She was literally trying to box me in like a wild animal, as if she could trap me on my own land. I walked outside, furious but calm, and said, "What on earth are you doing?" One of the workers shrugged. "We were told this is HOA property. We're building a boundary fence." I turned to Karen, who was standing nearby with her sunglasses and smug smile. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," she said. "You think you're above the rules. Well, the HOA has decided you're in violation. Until you comply, you don't get access to the road, utilities, or community services." I laughed in her face. "Karen, this isn't your land. This is county land. And guess what? I'm the county's land commissioner. You're trespassing. Every nail your workers hammer is another violation you will answer for." But she didn't flinch. She doubled down. By the time I called the sheriff and got the workers off my property, Karen had already filed a complaint against me. Not just one complaint. Dozens. Noise violations, trash violations, unsafe structure violations. She even claimed my cabin was damaging the aesthetic beauty of the valley. It was laughable, but also dangerous. Because while most people would have ignored her nonsense, the truth is paperwork piles up. And if you don't fight it, even fake claims can cause real trouble. That's when I realized, if I wanted to end this once and for all, I couldn't just defend myself. I had to go on offense. So I started gathering evidence. I interviewed neighbors who had been bullied by Karen's HOA, families who had been fined for leaving Christmas lights up too long, retirees who were threatened with foreclosure for painting their porch the wrong shade of beige, people who had been too scared to speak up until now. The stories poured in. One man told me Karen's HOA fined him $1,000 because his mailbox was too rustic. Another family was charged $500 because their kid's basketball hoop was an eyesore. And when one homeowner tried to fight back, Karen slapped them with legal threats until they gave up. This wasn't just an overzealous HOA president. This was a reign of terror. And now, I had the evidence to prove it. At the next county board hearing, I didn't just defend myself. I unleashed a storm. I presented testimony after testimony. Photos of bogus fines. Letters dripping with threats. Bank statements showing thousands of dollars the HOA had illegally collected from homeowners. The room was dead silent as the evidence stacked higher and higher. Finally, I dropped the hammer. "Not only is this HOA overstepping its legal authority," I said, looking directly at Karen, "but is operating in violation of county land laws. As land commissioner, I am recommending an immediate investigation, fines, and possible dissolution of this HOA's charter." The room erupted. People clapped, cheered, even stood up. Homeowners who had suffered for years finally had hope. Karen? She looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Her face twisted in rage. But for once, she had no words. But if you thought that was the end, you don't know Karen. The very next week, she tried a new trick. She claimed she had state-level approval to manage land beyond her HOA boundaries. She even forged documents to back it up. But here's the thing about lying to the wrong person. I had direct contacts at the state office. One phone call, and her little forgery crumbled like dust. And when the state heard about it, they didn't just laugh. They opened a criminal investigation. That's right. HOA Karen went from harassing neighbors to facing real charges for fraud, harassment, and abuse of authority. The fallout was brutal. She was removed from her position as HOA president. The HOA itself was fined heavily and forced to pay restitution to homeowners they had cheated. And Karen? Let's just say she's not bossing anyone around anymore. As for me, my cabin is still standing. My driveway is still gravel. My chimney is still out of code. And every time I sit on my porch with a cup of coffee, I smile knowing that no HOA president will ever bother me or anyone else in the valley again. But here's the part one really want you to hear. This isn't just my story. It's a lesson. Bullies only win if we let them. Whether the schoolyard bully, a workplace tyrant, or an HOA president who thinks she owns the world, if you stand your ground, if you know your rights, and if you fight back smart, you can take them down. So if you're dealing with your own Karen right now, don't give up. Don't let fear control you. Learn the rules, gather your facts, and push back. Because sometimes the only way to stop a bully is to show them you're stronger than they ever imagined. CTA, have you ever had an HOA or anyone try to push you around like this? Drop your story in the comments because I want to hear it. And if you enjoyed this showdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around. Because I've got even more battles, more Karens, and more victories to share with you.